If your blood runs orange and blue, this is the pod for you. You're listening to Orange and Blue Bloods, hosted by EJ Stewart. Let's get to it, New York.
Well, we finally have an opponent for the Knicks in the Eastern Conference Finals is underway. What's up? This is EJ Stewart. You are watching Orange and Blue Bloods, a New York Knicks podcast where I discuss all things happening with the New York Knicks. And right now, we're all locked in to the postseason because the Knicks right now have been in a long waiting pattern. This is going to be 9 days that they've had to wait, but finally the day has arrived, and we will see the Knicks take the court for the Eastern Conference Finals at home at Madison Square Garden because we finally have our results from the Eastern Conference semifinal round between the Pistons and the Cavs. Is the Cavs that are moving on. So we'll break down everything that has to be discussed when it comes to this matchup between the Knicks and Cavs. We'll talk about how the Cavs got here in dispatching the Detroit Pistons, a team that a lot of folks said would be perhaps the final boss for the New York Knicks in their quest of getting back to the NBA Finals for the first time since '99. Turns out that's not the case. And we'll hear from some of the players and coaches. Obviously, we'll hear from Jalen Brunson, Josh Hart, Mike Brown, and Donovan Mitchell about everything leading up to this matchup. So this is going to be a ton of fun. Eastern Conference preview episode of Orange and Blue Bloods. Of course, if you love this content, be sure to do a couple of things for me. Number one, make sure you're subscribed to this podcast. Make sure you search Orange and Blue Bloods wherever you get your podcasts, particularly Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And make sure you hit that subscribe button. That'll make sure you know when we're dropping podcasts. Also, if you can hit the auto download button and whatever auto download feature you have on your digital streaming service, that helps us as well. And make sure if you give us a 5-star review. Again, all those things we greatly appreciate it. Of course, if you want to watch these episodes of Orange and Blue Bloods, you can catch it on the New Generation Media YouTube page. Just search New Generation Media and New Generation Media. You could watch episodes of Orange and Blue Bloods. Our last one with Dexter Henry is up on our YouTube channel, as well as obviously our podcast channel. Big thank you to Dexter Henry from New York Post Sports. He did a phenomenal job. We had an awesome conversation talking Knicks ball. And, you know, we didn't know who the Knicks were playing, but a lot of that conversation still holds up. So if you haven't heard that one, make sure you go back to the last episode of Orange and Blue Bloods, because that one was an absolute doozy. And, of course, be sure to follow me on social media. EJ_Stewart is where you'll find me on X. Action EJ is where you'll find me on Instagram and TikTok. Make sure you also follow me on Buzzer. BZZR. Make sure you download the Buzzer app. I'm doing work with them, and they're a phenomenal team over there. Make sure you download Buzzer, sign up, and then follow me, EJ205 Prep, or just search my name, EJ Stewart, and it should be pretty easy to find your boy. And let's get this party rolling, man. So, again, the Cavs, they advanced to the Eastern Conference Finals, which means that they're not going to face the Knicks. And they did that by dispatching the Detroit Pistons in Game 7 of their matchup with the Pistons. They did this on the road. They beat them 125-94 to advance to the Eastern Conference Finals. This is the first time the Cavs have made it to the Eastern Conference Finals since 2018. That was when the King, LeBron James, was still a member of the Cavs. The Cavs have obviously, because they had LeBron James for such a large portion of their history in the new millennium, have made a lot of conference finals. So you may be wondering, well, when was the last time they made a conference finals without LeBron James? Because as you know, he's not on the team right now. You have to go all the way back to 1992 when you had Mark Price and Craig Elo and Brad Daugherty and Larry Nance going up against Michael Jordan. And you know how those stories ended with the Cleveland Cavaliers and playing the Bulls in the 90s and the 80s. So that was the last time that the Cavs have made a conference finals without LeBron James. Maybe that's a good omen for the Knicks since they didn't win, of course, last time they went to the conference finals without LeBron James. So we'll see what happens again. Donovan Mitchell leads them to the conference finals. He was awesome in Game 7. He had 26 points. Sam Merrill became kind of one of the unsung heroes in this one. He was huge in the first half. He had 15 in the first, ended with 23. Jared Allen was great on the glass. And obviously with scoring as well. He had 23. Evan Mobley had 21 and 12. So they got a lot from most of their stars. One of their stars was conspicuously missing from a lot of the big numbers from this game, and that was James Harden, who still had a terrible Game 7. 2 for 10, not just 9 points. He did have 6 assists. He didn't have a lot of turnovers, so that was, I guess, maybe a good sign. But, I mean, not only was the performance terrible, the flopping and the incessant throwing the head up and throwing your arms out, just, I mean, he looked like a guy that was, quite frankly, running on fumes just to get through this series. And it didn't matter because the Detroit Pistons flat out did not show up. They only shot 35% from the field. Cade Cunningham scored just 13 points. big difference in this game, I thought, was the fact that Cleveland really dominated the paint. They destroyed them on the offensive glass, and they destroyed them in paint. They outscored them 58-34 in paint points, and that was the story of this game. Cleveland, the three ball really wasn't going for them for a large portion of this game, but it did not matter because they were getting whatever they wanted in the paint, which is very ironic for the so-called tough guys and the new bad boys in the Detroit Pistons that did not display the level of toughness and physicality needed to win a Game 7 at home. And that had to be really disappointing for them. And we'll get to more Cavs and Knicks in a second, but I just got to say, if you're a Knicks fan, you think about all the ops that are out of this postseason. You dispatched the Atlanta Hawks. You saw the Boston Celtics get eliminated in the first round of the playoffs. You dispatched the Philadelphia Sixers yourself. And then you saw the Detroit Pistons, who, with not only that team, but also their fans, have done a lot of talking about what they were going to do to the Knicks in the postseason. You've seen them all be eliminated in the playoffs. Some of them without you having to even do anything. Them just imploding on themselves. And to that, I think it's fair for Knicks fans to have a little fun and say this.
Rest in piss to all my ops. Okay, that's enough. Now we really celebrating.
I mean, Detroit, number 1 seed, 60 wins, all for a 30-point beatdown at home in a Game 7.
Oh, it's fake. He got you.
It's a rough beat. It's a rough beat for Detroit. Listen, we're having a little fun. They had a great season. They've had a great turnaround as an organization. I'm sure there'll be matchups with the Pistons down the road, and this will not be the last time we talk about Pistons v. Knicks. But it will be for the rest of this season because they got bounced and they got embarrassed at home, so they're now done. So that means that we now, again, can focus on what really matters, which is the teams that are still playing, the teams that actually are taking care of business. And that is, again, the New York Knicks and the Cleveland Cavaliers. So they take the court for Game 1 Tuesday night. Eastern Conference Finals begins. So when you think about kind of the tail of the tape of what happened with these teams during the regular season, though, I would say take these results, particularly with these two teams, with a massive grain of salt for a lot of different reasons. But just to give you that information, the Knicks won the season series 2 out of 3, though Cleveland did win the lone game that included James Harden post the trade deadline. That was a February 24th game. The Cavs, I believe, won by 15 points. It was kind of a dominant performance, if I remember. This was part of the Knicks when they started to kind of really struggle a little bit. Past January, when they had that terrible January, then they played better. Then this was kind of like one of those ugly national TV games that we kept seeing over the course of the season. And that thing continued in March. So they, Cavs won that one game. The Knicks won the other two earlier in the season. To note, the first game they played, Josh Hart nor Mitchell Robinson played in that game. That was way, way back in October. That was actually a OG Anunoby special where he led the team in scoring. Jalen Brunson actually didn't play well in that game. Knicks still won. But the most memorable game, I think, of this series that happened in the regular season was the Christmas Day thriller, where the Knicks were down 17 points in the fourth quarter. And thanks to the heroics of none other than Tyler Kolek, the Knicks were able to come back from 17 down and steal a game on Christmas Day at Madison Square Garden. One of the better games of the season just in the NBA, but certainly maybe the best Knicks win of the regular season. A huge, monumental win at that point in the season. So that was really the regular season story with these teams in terms of the larger story with these franchises. The last time these two teams played in the postseason, you had the Knicks dispatching the Cleveland Cavaliers in 5 games in 2023. That really kind of began the origin story of these organizations in this era. Like, they both had this Donovan Mitchell thing where Mitchell was about to be traded by Utah and it seemed like he was going to the Knicks, and then wham, Cleveland jumps in and swoops in and they get Donovan Mitchell. The Knicks still had Jalen Brunson, who they had signed already, and they moved forward with the roster that they had, and then somehow they got matched up in the first round of the playoffs. And that was when you kind of saw Jalen Brunson ascend to a level where we're like, oh, this guy isn't just some like upgrade at point guard that's like a borderline all-star. This guy may be like a superstar. Like, he just dominated a series opposite a guy who we all thought had to be the Knicks number 1. Like, Jalen Brunson was going to be sidekick to this guy, and he just outplayed Donovan Mitchell. And it wasn't just how dominant Jalen Brunson was for the second year in a row, by the way, outplaying Donovan Mitchell, because he outplayed him the previous year with Dallas. This was also the story of kind of like the Cavs perhaps kind of being seen as this physically and mentally weak team because the Knicks really pummeled them from a physical standpoint. The Cavs playing that double big lineup that they continue to play just got manhandled in the paint. The Knicks scored in the paint at will, whether it was R.J. Barrett, whether it was Jalen Brunson, whether it was Julius Randle, and then Mitchell Robinson pretty much suplexed, for lack of a better term, that front court of Mobley and Allen, and just kind of did what he wanted with them when it came to the rebound, the glass, the physicality in the paint. It was an absolute ass kicking, and in many ways, it was one that the Cavs have still spoken about. Like, they have spoken about that loss to the Knicks for years after that, about how much they needed to grow from that terrible performance where they were expected to win and they got dominated. And again, we've kind of seen up and down things with the Cavs pretty much ever since. And here we are now where they finally have gotten to the Eastern Conference Finals. This is the first time that Donovan Mitchell has gotten to the Eastern Conference Finals. And they are a team that has dubbed themselves kind of a win now, finals or bust kind of team, which is why they traded their franchise point guard in Darius Garland to bring in an older James Harden, whom they thought would be better for these moments and series like these. So here we are, Knicks Cavs. They take the court on Tuesday night. Let's hear from head coach Mike Brown, who spoke about how it is important for the Knicks to get off to a good start in the series.
You always want to hit first, second, third, and obviously last. So trying to do that is going to be big. We've talked about it before with the starts of our games, and our guys, to their credit, have done a better job in the playoffs than what we did, towards the end of the regular season.
That's going to be very important, is getting off to a great start. And we have had all the conversations about rest versus rust. This is going to be the ultimate conversation of that, because you're watching a team that just had a 9-day layoff playing against a team that just went through a grueling 7-game series, though the 7th game they ran away with, but nonetheless played 7 games in a series against a very physical team. This is obviously going to be a tough matchup. Josh Hart understands that loud and clear.
Good team, good players, good coach. Team that's obviously in rhythm, playing yesterday. So, we expect a tough series. We just got to try to continue to play Knicks basketball.
Yeah, the reality is I feel like with the Knicks, and I wanted you to hear Josh Hart talk about the rust situation, because he seems to make it sound like it's not nothing. Like, this is something that they're going to have to overcome. But I think the important thing is what Josh said there, and he's kind of trying not to give you much, but I can still extrapolate something from what he said even there, which is I have felt for a while now, and I've said this for as long as Orange and Blue Bloods has been back. I was saying this during 40 days and 40 nights and 40 days and counting, that it just feels like with this Knicks team, it's less about the opponent and more about what they do. We know what the Cavs are good at. We know what their strengths are. We know they are a formidable team. But the Knicks have everything they need to compete at a high level and beat pretty much any team in the NBA. Let's just put the Thunder aside. I know you're going to say, Thunder. I know the Thunder are great. Put them aside. Besides them, they have everything they need. If they play well and they do what they're supposed to do, and as Josh Hart said, they're playing Knicks basketball, to beat pretty much anybody. And that's what we're seeing with how much they've been dominating this postseason. But here was Josh Hart talking about how in a perfect world, you probably wouldn't want to set up this way.
Yeah, I don't know. Obviously, would rather not have a 9-day break. You're in a good rhythm, and then obviously you got to kind of just sit there and wait and those kind of things. So, I don't know. Ideally, if it was a 3 or 4 day break, that would be nice. But, there's good points and bad points.
Yeah, I mean, there's a give and a take with that, right? And I still think at the end of the day, if I had to choose between a 9-day break or playing a 7-game grueling series, I would much rather have the 9-day break and just figure it out from there. This game 1 is going to be so interesting because this was my takeaway watching Game 7 of the Cavs series, and because the Knicks have been off, you're watching these games between the Cavs and the Pistons, especially now knowing that they will face one of these teams way more closely than I already be watching very closely because I'm a basketball lunatic, but watching them really closely the last 2 games. Cavs, I thought, they took apart the Pistons. They played they executed better, they played harder, they played more physical. They just seemed to know the assignment of Game 7 where the Pistons did not. But watching that game, it looked like they were two teams that were stuck in cement or stuck in quicksand. I didn't think that neither team looked particularly fast and looked particularly... I won't say the Cavs didn't look sharp, because Donovan Mitchell, for a guy who I don't think really still has his legs, played a really smart game. And I thought Stan McGundy was right with kind of saying, like, listen, this is a great Donovan Mitchell game. It's not going to be a 40-point, 50-point. You know, he's had 60 points, I think, he definitely had 50 in the playoff game. He's had 70, I think, in an NBA game. This was not one of those kind of games, but just the nature of the game, what the team needed from him. Jared Allen said after the game that, hey, he was smart to kind of get everyone else involved early and then started to get his. But I think that was also him pacing himself. He knew he couldn't just come out and game guns blazing. I don't think he has his legs. I say all that to say, I think this game 1 is interesting because I feel like if things go the way it's supposed to, and if you're a Knicks fan, how you would hope, I feel like this should be a lot similar to what we saw with Philly, where Philly had an emotional high, great win in Game 7 in Boston on the road. Then you fly. You know, Detroit to, just like Boston, New York is not anything. Detroit to New York is nothing in terms of a flight. But still, you fly. Now you're in a new hotel, new situation. You probably do a very short, I don't even know if you do a shoot around. You probably just do a walkthrough. And then you just get ready for the game on Tuesday. It's not an advantageous position to be in. And I feel like for the Knicks, it's going to be very important to get off to a very good start to start the game, just like they did in Game 1 in Philly. Because I think Philly was very easy to let go of that rope in Game 1. With that, all right, this is what the time these guys are on. We just killed ourselves to try to win that Game 7. We know we have another opportunity in Game 2. You know, they're going to get this one. I think if you're the Knicks, you got to get off to a good start. You don't want to give them any kind of momentum by starting off a little slow, maybe, you know, matching their sluggish nature, because I think they're going to be just sluggish regardless. I don't see this being a situation where the energy from winning Game 7 is going to buoy them into this great performance in Game 1. I think that they're going to probably be a little bit of a step slow, but they're going to try to make it a slog. They're going to try to make it a physical game. They're going to try to muddy the game up and make it a game that they feel comfortable playing given what they just went through. The Knicks got to, in a way, make it uncomfortable. The Cavs are a team that doesn't play at a super fast pace, but play, especially since they got Harden, but plays at a faster pace than the Knicks. I think it's important for the Knicks to actually up that pace in Game 1. May not necessarily the rest of the series, because I don't know if that's the game you want to play with this Cleveland team. They're a more athletic team for the most part, but that's like the game I think you want to play to start this series. Is I think maybe you push the pace, push on rebounds, certainly push on misses, push on some makes. Get this team running, get them to know that, you know, take advantage of the fact that your legs have been, you know, loose and not taking wear and tear for the last 9 days. I hope that for the Knicks, they take that approach. Hopefully these practices have been good practices, strong practices where they've been really getting after it and not just guys just kind of just bullshitting around. No pun intended. I usually don't curse on this podcast. That shows you kind of how serious things are with the Knicks. But you can't be BSing around. Like these practices need to be real, and I hope that Mike Brown, as Dexter Henry said on the last episode, that he, you know, took this as a as kind of a mini camp situation, because that's kind of what you need to kind of be ready for the intensity of a Game 1 of an Eastern Conference Finals. But I think that's going to be crucial because as well as the Cavs played, and they played well, you can't take that away from them. I just watched that game and I was like, these teams, there's no way either of these teams could beat the Knicks team I last saw in terms of the team that was bludgeoning Philly. Now, if the Knicks can't shoot that way or execute offensively that way out of rust, what they need to make up for it with that is with effort. You can make up for, just like I thought the Cavs made up for a lack of precision with their jump shooting until Sam Merrill really got hot, with effort, physicality, toughness. Knicks have to do the same thing to Cleveland, where you have to, okay, maybe shots aren't as smooth, maybe offense isn't as crisp, all right, but you could beat them to loose balls. You can beat them up and down the court. You can beat them on the glass. Like, those little hustle point things, like every coach is, you know, counting deflections, counting hustle plays. The Knicks are going to have to win that in a major way, I think, in Game 1 to set the tone. I think that's going to be a crucial part of this series if the Knicks are gonna win. I want you guys to hear from Jalen Brunson as well, who talked about the matchup with one Donovan Mitchell, who he thinks very highly of.
The utmost respect. Gotten to know him since really maybe my first year. We had mutual friends, and then getting to know him, the dude works really hard, loves the game. I think he approaches it the right way. Just got a lot of respect for him.
Yeah, and what I wanted to get to with Brunson, I thought this was interesting, Sound, because I think the fear was what we talked about a ton, and what I've talked about a ton. It's been one of the themes of this podcast really since the playoffs have begun, is the fear / expectation that the Knicks will make life harder on themselves, that the Knicks will not live up to whatever expectations you have of them, that they will collapse and or choke. That is just a reality if you're a Knicks fan or an observer of the Knicks or even a hater. Everyone all feels the same way. They don't agree on anything, but they certainly feel that feeling. I thought this was interesting because, Jalen Brunson was asked about, the importance of, still pushing forward and not letting up on opponents. And he said that there are certainly lessons that they have learned, not just this year, but also last year.
Definitely, and obviously I think it happened this year as well when we played Atlanta. We let our foot off the gas. Even in game 1 we won, but also game 2 obviously we lost. And so it's something that we need to continue to get better at, and I think we have. But we can't be satisfied.
Yeah, I mean that's the deal. Like I think that there's a lot of excitement around the fan base, a lot of excitement around the team, as there should be. I don't know how else you're supposed to be, given how great the team is playing right now. But the reality is, if the Knicks are going to do what they're supposed to do, and they're favored in this series, and I think they deserve to be, you can't let up. And you have to have a locked-in focus, just like you had against Philly, just like you had in those last 3 games against Atlanta. And again, the shot-making helped a ton, but it wasn't just the shot-making. It was the attention to detail on what they were doing offensively in terms of execution. It was the physicality and aggressiveness and effort defensively and on the glass. Those are things that, as my friend Dex said, that they don't have to let up just because you've been on a layoff or you've been rusty in any way. And in fact, because of the circumstances of this other team having just played on Sunday, you actually need to really emphasize those things. Like, if I was Mike Brown, I would write down rebounds, defense, physicality. Those would be the things I'd write down. Like, we have to set the tone with this. If we do this, everything else will fall into play. I have no qualms or no fears that the Knicks won't eventually make shots, or the Knicks won't eventually execute against this team offensively. Because the one thing, we kind of go back and forth, Cavs, Pistons, who have been a bad matchup. I don't think it really matters, but this is definitely the worst defensive team of the 2 teams that they were potentially facing. So I don't have fear, even if the Knicks don't have a great offensive game 1, they won't score on this team. But they have to set the tone and be locked in as early as they can defensively against this squad. This was Donovan Mitchell in talking about the challenges that the Cavs will see facing the Knicks.
They are a talented team. They obviously it starts with Jalen Brunson and Cat, but Mikal and OG have been phenomenal. Josh Hart. You look at their bench, has been great. So, we know them obviously, but I think the biggest thing is they've been off they got a bunch of rest. So we got to be ready to go from the jump from game 1, and to that point is it's great. Yeah, I get to play at home, but doesn't matter. We got to be locked in and ready to go. I know we will be, and they're a tough team, and we're excited.
Yeah, and that part about the rest thing is right on Donovan Mitchell's mind too. It's on everybody's mind. And he's on the flip side where I think he understands what could happen on the flip side of having no rest. He's like, this is a team that's been sitting around. We can't. There's an opportunity. I think it was almost like double entendre in a weird way of what he was saying. I think he was saying there's an opportunity for us to take advantage of a team that's been laying off, but also there's a disadvantage of this team could be firing on all cylinders or be super fired up to start this game, and we might not be we need to be ready because we might get an avalanche to start. That is what the Knicks, I think, need to bring. That's the kind of attitude they have to have coming into this game. But of course, the games have to happen. The team has to play in order for us to see what exactly is going to happen. But I think that Donovan Mitchell knows that the rest thing is going to be the conversation of this series, and it's going to be certainly a fun one to watch. So I'm gonna give you guys my keys to the series before I give you guys my prediction. Number 1. Knicks got to win the glass and the paint. I think Cleveland, this is not just including this past series, but But let's talk about the past series they just played with Detroit. But they thrived most in the last series when they got after it on the glass and scored in the paint. Jared Allen had a couple of huge games in this series, and when he's playing aggressive and he's playing tough and he's kind of playing to his 7'1" size and the strength that he has, he can be a problem for some teams, and he was giving Detroit a lot of problems. They, as a shooting team, are kind of average. Merrill can shoot it when he's got good looks. He was red hot on Game 7. Strus can certainly shoot it if he's got good looks. We know Mitchell and Harden are streak shooters, but they get hot. They can certainly rack them up. But overall, their numbers suggest that they're pretty much an average three-point shooting team. But they can get into the paint. Harden gets into the paint. Mitchell gets into the paint. And then, of course, you got the production from their bigs in the paint, Mobley and Allen. If you're the Knicks, you got to be able to keep Mitchell and Harden somewhat in front of you, or at the very least, turn them over when they get into the paint and try to have those dump-offs, alley-oops, especially when we're talking about James Harden going to the bigs. They got to be super active in making sure that the Cavs are not just dominating with paint touches. That is going to be a crucial aspect to this. Also, when you think about rebounding, again, Knicks have been one of the best offensive rebounding teams in the league. They were 5th this year in offensive rebound rate. Cleveland, though, was 9th. And Cleveland, again, dominated the offensive glass when they needed to most to get to this round and beating the Detroit Pistons, who were one of the best offensive rebounding teams, one of the best overall physical, tough defensive teams in the league. So the Knicks can't just say, okay, we dominate these guys physically and everything a couple years ago, we'll just kind of walk around and do this again. Like, no, you got to do it. Like, just saying what you've done or saying what the Knicks have had success doing against this team in the past isn't going to do anything. You actually have to be able to actually impose your physical will on this team. So winning the glass, winning the paint, the Knicks, again, same thing. Like, Jalen Brunson's got to be able to get into the paint and score. Like, they got Allen, they got Mobley, hovering around in the paint. Brunson's got to be very selective and very smart with his shot selection. Mikal Bridges has got to be smart with his shot selection. And you're going to have to get some offensive rebounding prowess from Cat and from Mitchell Robinson. This, of all series, is the double big series. This is the one where these guys are going to certainly play together, and they could play significant minutes together to match what's going on the other side with Allen and Mobley. I don't know how much Mike Brown, in terms of like how reliant he has to be on it. The reality is, I think that Mike Brown would actually be quite comfortable with OG Anunoby guarding Evan Mobley for a lot of these games, and taking Cat and putting them on him takes OG off of him. But certainly that is going to be a big part of this series, is trying to match their toughness and their physicality and the size that they have. Knicks have the opportunity now. There have been times in different series where Mike Brown's been like, oh, I don't know if I can use the double big. Like, he talked about that against Atlanta, which was nonsense. He can't run that nonsense in this series. This is the series where double bigs are going to have to happen, and I think that it will in a major way. Other big key in this series for me, they got to wear down James Harden and Donovan Mitchell, and that's on both sides of the ball. Like I said, I felt like both of Cleveland's stars showed some wear in this past series. It looked like, to me, Donovan Mitchell in Game 6 of this series looked like a guy that was completely out of gas. He had an absolute dazzling performance in Game 5. Was it? Or I'm trying to get this right. Game 5 it was, right? Or it was Game 4. Game 4, I think he was phenomenal. Yeah, it was Game 4. Game 4, he was phenomenal. He had like 30-something points in the second half. And I don't think he found his legs really at any point ever for the series. I think he played well in Game 7. But I didn't think he necessarily didn't shoot the 3-ball as great. But I don't know if he ever really quite found his legs. But he got enough energy in Game 7 to put on the performance that he had. But I thought he expended pretty much everything he had in Game 4 to get that series tied to 2-2. Harden got him to Game 5. And then I thought Harden had nothing in Game 6 and Game 7. So, again, these are game situations where they're playing every day. There is no rest to come for these guys. So, I think if you're the Knicks, in terms of defensively, mixing and matching matchups for these guys is going to be important. Obviously, when you're talking about guarding James Harden, at this stage of his career, he will always be able to score the ball because he's James Harden. But he's kind of getting by on smoke and mirrors. He doesn't have the same burst, same quickness he used to have. He certainly doesn't have it after all these grueling games he's played. These are 2 7-game series they've played back-to-back. So when you're guarding him, you gotta remain disciplined. You gotta keep your hands away. You gotta avoid the faking, flopping, arms waving, head nodding, all those things. You gotta just try to keep your cool, stay smart, and stay disciplined, and stick to your scouting report on how you're supposed to guard him. Because if you can keep him off the free throw line, I don't think he has much. Like, he's gonna have one game because he's James Harden, maybe even two. I don't think you're gonna have a dominant James Harden series from the guy I just saw. I thought he was awful for the last two games of that series against Detroit. Donovan Mitchell is, he's a superstar or close to it. So we know how great he is. At the end of the day, though, this is going to be a big Mikal Bridges series. This is a big Mikal Bridges and Josh Hart series. I think both of those guys are going to be the guys who have the primary matchups. I know some people saying, what about OG? Again, I think with the way this series is going, I think OG will get a lot of Evan Mobley. They may be late game situations where OG is guarding Donovan Mitchell, or if Donovan Mitchell gets on like a heater where they put OG on him. But I don't know if it makes sense to just throw OG on him, given how disruptive Mikal Bridges has been on the Donovan Mitchell archetype of guard, right? Like, they're different in certain degrees, but like we saw what he did to CJ McCollum, and we saw what he did to, and Josh Hart was a big part of that too. And we certainly saw what he did to Tyrese Maxey, a smaller, extremely fast, athletic guard. Like, Mikal Bridges was money, so I want Mikal Bridges taking that matchup. And then on the flip side, they have to be aggressive attacking those guys defensively, because neither of them are good defensive players. They can get some steals, they can be disruptive because they're smart players, but James Harden is a cone. Donovan Mitchell will give effort, but is not a great defender. You got to be smart, make sure you keep the ball away so they're not able to get easy swipes. But Mikal Bridges, offensively, he's going to have to be as aggressive as he was in this last series against Philly. I think that's going to be crucial. But it's not also simply just put these guys in pick and roll, or Mikal Bridges, Josh Hart, it's time for you to just be aggressive and go one-on-one. That's not necessarily what we're talking about. It's also about the Knicks running their offense and putting those guys in bad spots where they have to guard those flex cuts, where they have to guard those back cuts. Like, don't allow, James Harden and Donovan Mitchell to kind of just relax on defense purely because Mikal or Josh, or if one of them is guarding, an OG or Deuce McBride, because those guys don't have the ball. That doesn't mean those guys can't still be in the actions. Like, you need to be having those guys involved in guarding screens, calling out screens, make them work every possession down on the floor. And if the Knicks are able to do that, I think that they'll be in a good spot, because I don't believe in the Cavs defensively. I think they played good defense, but I think they got very lucky playing against a team that second option was Tobias Harris at the end of the day. The Knicks are not the Pistons offensively. They present way more challenges. So the Cavs are going to be tested much more defensively in this series. And then finally, my last key for this series, man, Brunson's got to be the star of the series. At the end of the day, if you were looking at these two matchups, Pistons, Cavs, if you were looking for the more favorable matchup for Jalen Brunson, forget about who matches up for the team, just thinking about Jalen Brunson, it's the Cavs, without question. You found your favorable matchup in Cleveland. Cleveland's defensive backcourt, like I just mentioned, with Harden and with Mitchell, leaves a lot to be desired, which is why I assume it will be Max Strus to start on him. Max Strus was fighting like hell, and at the end of the day, he actually ended up wearing down. It was a team effort, but they ended up wearing down Cade Cunningham. But he also took a lot of belt to ass in that series too from Cade Cunningham. He's a pretty good defender. He doesn't seem to be the right kind of matchup. Like, he's a little longer than maybe some of the guys. Well, every team throws long guys on Brunson, but he's not a smaller guy. But I don't think he has the kind of quickness and foot speed to stay in front of Brunson consistently, which is why I think this also probably becomes a Dennis Schroeder series for Cleveland. Schroeder is in the rotation. He's going to play, but I think there are going to be plenty of games where he plays a lot more maybe than Strus. We'll have to see how Strus does handling Brunson. But I think if you remember a couple years ago, I forgot who was the guy that they tried. Cleveland tried, and this is JB Bickerstaff nonsense, but JB Bickerstaff tried to put somebody on Brunson that was like purely idiotic. I gotta find maybe see if I can find like a 20. I think I said 2023. It might have been 2024 playoffs between the Cavs and Knicks. But he put somebody on Brunson that was it was purely idiotic. It made no sense for why they went with that matchup. Okay, no, so it was the 2023 playoffs. I was right. I should have trusted my gut there. And I was like, are they serious doing this? Like, I don't want to say it was Dean Wade, but I'm kind of wondering if it was Dean Wade. Like, they tried to put somebody on him. I'm like, this team is not serious. And they weren't. They got destroyed by the Knicks in that series. But let me just look at this roster real quick. Cedi Osman. Shout out to Cedi Osman. I wonder what he's doing. They tried to put Cedi Osman on him to start some of these games or for large stretches of these games because they're trying to hide Mitchell and Garland. And it was like, I'm like, are you kidding me? Jalen Brunson looked at him like, are you kidding me? And I feel like this could be another Cedi Osman deal where they think, okay, like he's kind of strong and he's playing hard defensively. Like maybe he's a good matchup. I don't think he's a good matchup. They got to find somebody else. And eventually, I think that's going to land on Dennis Schroeder, Brunson did his thing on Detroit last year with Schroeder guarding him for large stretches of that series. He did a much better job scoring on Schroeder than he did against Thompson. But obviously, the play we remember is the ankle-breaking 3-ball that sent the Detroit Pistons to Cancun. But I think this is going to be another Cedi Osman deal where they're going to try to find matchups. That's why I mentioned Keon Ellis as someone who's not getting a lot of minutes, but I wonder if he becomes a guy who gets spot minutes to give them something defensively against Brunson, a much better matchup. Brunson's had his way with him, but Keon Ellis is a good defender, and he is somebody that's why he's in the NBA, is to run and guard guys and pick them up full court. So, but at the end of the day, all that stuff doesn't matter. Again, to me, similar to the Knicks, it's about Jalen Brunson. Like, Jalen Brunson, I believe he's the best player in this series. He's a superstar, and this is his moment, man. Like, the Knicks have been knocking on the door, trying to get to the NBA Finals. You came here, you've been the savior that the Knicks fans didn't necessarily expect you to be, but have now been pleasantly surprised and euphoric to have. This is where you got to get it done. You're up against another star who's certainly going to have his moments in Donovan Mitchell, but Jalen Brunson has a lot more of an advantageous matchup for him than Donovan Mitchell does, having to go up against the trio of Josh Hart, Mikal Bridges, and OG Anunoby. So Brunson's got to be a superstar. He's got to dominate this series. I think that he will, but that's going to be a big part of this. Is Brunson's got to be locked in. If you see how he looked in the press conference for today that they did on Monday as we record this, he looks as locked in as you could be. I know that doesn't really matter, but same hoodie, do-rag, miserable look on his face. Like, okay, this guy is locked in. So I think those are the keys to the series, man. If you're asking me for a prediction, which I'm sure you would want to know, we didn't get to do a prediction for the Sixers series because we didn't record one in time. That's why I wanted to record this one so that you guys had this. I'm going to go. I have something written here, but I'm just going to make sure I'm going to stick to it. I'm going to stick to what's written here. I'm going to say Knicks in 6. Some of you guys will probably be booing me for not having more faith in the team. But I'm going to say Knicks in 6. I think this is the toughest team they've played of the teams that they've played. I don't think that this is going to be a 6-game series where we're kind of like nervous or anxious or don't feel good about how the team is playing. I think that the Cavs will probably have... The Knicks are due for a stinker. The Cavs will get that game, whatever game that is. I'm hoping it's not any of the first 2 games at the Garden. And then I think the Knicks will play well for the majority of the series. I think there will probably be then a Donovan Mitchell or James Harden game that comes out of nowhere that steals a game for Cleveland. And those are the games I'm giving them. I'm giving them the Knicks stinker because they've been on a heater for this long, and you can't be on a heater for this long without tripping it somewhat. And then giving respect where respect is due for James Harden and for Donovan Mitchell. I certainly don't have much confidence in the Cavs winning big Game 6s or Game 7s in this series. I know what they did in Game 7 against Detroit. Detroit again, what did we just say?
Oh, it's fake. He got you.
Get out of here with Detroit, right? Like, that was not a real number 1 seed. The Cleveland team I saw in Game 6 that looked disinterested, tired, and like they were like they didn't really understand the urgency of trying to close out a series at home. That's the team I expect more in this series. So there will be stretches where I think that the Knicks will get out. I think they win these first 2 games at the Garden. I think they maybe lose Game 3. That's maybe the stinker I'm talking about. I think they win Game 4. Maybe the Harden-Mitchell game comes Game 5. Knicks go to Cleveland, close out Game 6, they go to the NBA Finals. That's what I'm predicting. That's how I see this going. At the end of the day, I think when you look at this series, I think the Knicks front court has the physicality to match what Cleveland brings with their double bigs and their twin towers. I think Jalen Brunson has a extremely, extremely advantageous matchup against that backcourt and was essentially going to be Strus and some backup guards. I'm going to have to guard him for the majority of this series. I think Brunson's going to torch these guys, and I think it's going to be a big problem for them. And I'm just watching the version of Mitchell and Harden that I'm seeing through these playoffs, and they deserve credit for getting through that series against Detroit. I don't think they got a lot left in the tank. I think these guys are definitely worse for wear, and they're going to be facing a team that's going to be extremely fresh and much better equipped, I think, to match whatever energy, physicality is going to be needed to guard these guys for however long this series has to be. I'm going Knicks in 6. I know a lot of folks are more aggressive saying Knicks in 5, and I kind of wanted to go there, but I will give respect to the opponent a little bit and say Knicks in 6 because I do think that the Cavs will also remember what happened a couple years ago. Like, I don't think they're going to want to go out completely like chumps because that's what they did a couple years ago. I think this is a chance for them to go to the NBA Finals. Everybody could change their lively. Like, there's so many narratives at play in this series, which makes this one fun. Like, Donovan Mitchell, who's not a guy who really gets talked about as much in the national media, but now he's like front and center now. It's all right. Like, here he is. Like, questions about whether or not he can ever get the team into the finals. Well, now he has a chance. And James Harden, and can he find a way to get back to the finals for the first time since, his third year in the league in Oklahoma City and avenge that terrible final performance he had? Can he avenge all these playoff disasters he's had in conference finals and in conference semifinals and Game 6s and Game 7s? Jared Allen, Evan Mobley, are these guys, the cowardly lion? Are they the Tin Man? Or are these guys really going to be the ferocious dragons and the tough physical guys that they are billed to be? And with the Knicks, again, can they finally get back to the finals? Is Jalen Brunson really about it? Is Karl-Anthony Towns, have they finally figured him out? Have they finally unleashed him and unlocked this? I'll be very fascinated to see how this new look Knicks offense, because it's been a new offense, looks against the Cleveland Cavaliers. They're not a particularly great defensive team, but this is a team that plays much more size than any of the other teams they face. So, are there different challenges that come with running a lot of those back screens, flex actions, and all the different stuff they're doing with Karl-Anthony Towns in the high post? You would think it would be good to pull one of those guys out of the paint by having Karl-Anthony Towns. One of those guys is going to have to guard Karl-Anthony Towns. I assume it will be Evan Mobley. But no, actually it might be, I think it's going to be Jared Allen. I think Evan Mobley's going to get OG Anunoby. I think they're going to I think both these teams are going to play it straight, at least to start. And then maybe there'll be adjustments given how the games go. So I guess it'll be Jared Allen. I'll be fascinated to see like how effective it is running those sets through OG with someone like Evan Mobley, who was an all-NBA caliber defender, a former Defensive Player of the Year. There's a lot of different questions that will get answered very soon, but I cannot wait to see Knicks back in the Eastern Conference Finals. It's crazy. I was talking to my fiance. We were driving around as I wrap the show soon, and I was like, it's starting to feel like oddly normal to be like deep into May, like talking about like the Knicks in a very big playoff series. Like, again, like I do remember this as a child with the late 90s teams. I was too young for the mid to early 90s teams led by Pat Riley, but the Jeff Van Gundy teams I certainly remember. And I remember what that was like. But I mean, I was 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old when that was happening. This is very different because I'm an adult, but now we've been through this deal. Like the Jalen Brunson era, the Knicks have never seen a first round exit. They now have back-to-back conference finals. It's a fun feeling. It's certainly fun when they're winning. Let's hope they can keep it going. But it does show you just how much things have changed to see that we are here back in May, and it's not a surprise that we're once again talking about the Knicks having an opportunity to potentially make an NBA Finals. That's the position that Leon Rose, Jalen Brunson, Karl-Anthony Towns, and Mike Brown, leaders of this organization, have put the Knicks in. Let's hope they can cash in and get the job done. That's going to do it, man, for this edition of Orange and Blue Bloods. Again, if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to check out all of our episodes of Orange and Blue Bloods. Wherever you get your podcasts, just search Orange and Blue Bloods. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you download or hit the auto download feature so you can get all the downloads of the episodes. And make sure you give a 5-star review for the show. We greatly appreciate that. Again, if you want to watch on YouTube or you are watching on YouTube, be sure to head over to NU Generation Media, New Generation Media. Search Orange and Blue Bloods or just look through our various different playlists and you'll find our Orange and Blue Bloods episodes. Be sure to like this video. Leave a comment in the comment section on what you expect. I want to know your predictions. How will this series go between the Knicks and Cavs? How many games will the Knicks win in? I'm sure most of you Knicks fans will probably pick the Knicks. I'm sure there are plenty of Cavs fans that want to hear the Knicks perspective and will be like, these guys are delusional talking about the Knicks and talking about the Cavs in this way. I want to hear from you too. How many games will it take for you, the Knicks or Cavs, to win this series? I want to hear from you. Drop your predictions in the comment section. And, of course, again, subscribe to the channel, New Generation Media. And that's it. Thank you, guys, man. Make sure you follow me on social media. X, EJ_Stewart, where you'll find me. Action EJ is where you find me on TikTok and Instagram. And make sure you also catch me on Buzzer, the new Buzzer app. BZZR mobile app. Make sure you search it wherever you get your apps from, on your phone or smart tablet or whatever you use. And make sure you search your boy. Search EJ205 Prep or just search EJ Stewart and you should find me there. We'll have another episode of Orange and Blue Bloods. It'll probably be Thursday morning, ? We'll see. I'm leaving town, so we'll see when we get back. But it's been fun. It's EJ. I'll see you later.